Welcome to the 1871 podcast. And on tonight's episode, it's just myself, Johnny Hunt, and Dylan Kerr, my lord, from South Africa. So we're, as usual, joining you from three different countries. Myself in Uxbridge, Johnny in Ireland, and Dylan in South Africa. So hello, Johnny. How are you?
Good, mate. Dying of man flu, as you all know what it's like. It's hard work, but I'm getting there. I'm here.
Could be COVID, maybe.
COVID, what if, I'm off work for the week anyway, so it doesn't mean any difference to me. So
that's even worse, though. You've got the week off anyway, and you're not very well. But anyway, get well soon.
Cheers.
Dylan in South Africa, how are you?
I'm absolutely brilliant. It's my first weekend back in Polokwane. So after the disaster trip to Libya, I had a very quiet weekend. No football. I watched England's game yesterday in a shebeen, which was absolutely horrendous, but what a great experience. It's when you go into the worst pub you could ever imagine and times it by 100. But they've always got a nice 55-inch plasma TV, and they put the England game on and everybody loved it. So because they won, so yeah. It was good.
Yeah, and we the reason we've sort of got together tonight is we were hoping to get Steve Coppell on as a guest for tonight's episode, but he has said yes, he'll come on. We were hoping it was going to be tonight, but so far he's not with us. So we're going to think up of some other stuff to talk to you about. We'll talk about Steve Coppell, even though he's not here. We'll talk about Reading. And then we'll talk about lookalikes as well, because we've been doing some stuff on Twitter as lookalikes. And we had a competition, not a competition, a little quiz. I put something out on Twitter, and I said, if you could bring back anyone from their peak, from Reading teams from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and 2010s, and you could put them in the team now, who would you choose? Quite a lot of people went for Steve Sidwell. A few people went for Simon Osborne. And Dylan Kerr was among the options as well. Yeah. Yeah. Although Johnny was one of them.
Good lad, Johnny. Well done.
Yeah. I've seen the light, Dylan.
He's trying to make up the Nicky Shorey debacle.
You were warned.
Yeah.
I'm scared, mate.
But Dylan, you're back in South Africa now. It seems like you were away in Libya for about 2 weeks. So give us a quick summary of what happened to you in Libya. So from start to finish.
Look, Libya is a sanctioned place, and they've got rules and regulations. It's very, very difficult to get in and out. They don't do many things electronically. Everything's got to be done manually. So basically, we were supposed to fly out on on Friday. Arrive in Libya Friday night, train Saturday and play on Sunday. But unfortunately, the travel agency and two people, I believe, who organised the travel had completely cocked it all up. So basically, we flew from Johannesburg to Istanbul, and once we arrived at Istanbul, we didn't have a ticket. So basically, we were stuck in transit for 17 hours. Waiting to either go through to the airport lounge to go into the hotel in the airport, or fly to Libya. And unfortunately, we didn't get in till midnight. So imagine we left 5 o'clock South African time, which is 3 p.m. UK time. We arrived in Istanbul at 6, 4 o'clock UK time, and then for the next 14 hours, we're stuck in this transit area. No food, no water, no coffee, nothing. Freezing cold. And we were waiting for someone to tell us what was happening. And luckily, the South African ambassador, the governor, got us through to the airport lounge, where it was a lot warmer for one of those restaurants and coffee shops. And then the club booked us into a hotel for the night. The next day we woke up, still in the same predicament, no flights. So we stayed in the hotel again. Then at 9 o'clock Sunday morning till 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon, we were running around the airport trying to get flights, trying to get players from the outside back inside. We travelled to Libya with 13 players, 11 fit players, 2 players, one who not played and one who was injured. And when we got to Libya, we were under the understanding that we were going to play the next day. On Monday, we actually got off the plane, got onto the bus, and drove straight to the stadium and played the game. So that was the beginning of it. And then after the game, which we lost 4-1, and Libya is where we were in Benghazi. There's nothing to do. There's no place for the players to go and relax, or there was no pool, or there was nothing. And we ended up staying 2 extra days in Libya because we couldn't get home. So eventually we got a flight back to Istanbul. But again, the travel agent and the people in charge, they didn't give us a ticket to get from Istanbul to Joburg. So we were stuck in transit for another 8 hours. So it was an absolutely disastrous of a trip. But it is how it is in Africa. That's what the difficulty of playing in these competitions.
And I want to ask you, Dylan, if you like, the secret of your success, because it seems to be everywhere you go, whether it's a team at the top and you win a trophy, or if it's a team at the bottom and all of a sudden they start doing well when you come in. So with your current team, Maruma Gallants, they'd won 2 games all season. You joined at the end of January, and then, having only won 2 games all season, you come in, they've won the next 4 games in a row, and you've qualified for the quarterfinals of the CAFCON Cup, which is kind of the equivalent of the Europa League. So it's a big deal. You're South Africa's representatives left in the competition. What is it that you do? Because you've got a track record of doing that, not just in South Africa, but in Tanzania, in Vietnam, in Kenya. What is it? What difference is it that you go in and make to teams?
I think I just bring a bit of fun and a bit of laughter into the place, because the seriousness of players in Africa, it's all about money. It's all about money, and I can understand why, because they don't just look after themselves. It's not like a typical British family where you don't really look after your mum and dad and your aunties and uncles and your nieces and nephews, grandchildren, great grandchildren. You don't do that here. A player who's got financial stability, they have to pay, their family members. So some of them will look after 10, some will look after 15, some will look after 20 players. So it's really crazy. But hang on, let me just press on me.
Well, Dylan's speaking now to one of his players, I think, and the next question I'm going to ask him is about his visa situation, because I don't know what it is, and we want to know. Dylan's trying to bring in one of his players at the moment to talk about it from his perspective. I think he's just sort of disappeared, but here he comes. Dylan, I wanted to ask you.
I had Washington at TTM when we won the Nedbank Cup.
Yeah.
He won this player of the tournament. And I'm going to take it. I'm stealing it.
Okay, but you didn't get one.
No, I didn't get one. I mean, coach of the tournament didn't work for me, but I know coach of the tournament, so it was me. I don't need a trophy for that. But I had Washington before, and I had obviously 2 years later, he's still here. So I think that question you asked me, I think you're better off asking Washington that question.
Yeah, well, before you get him on, Dylan, I just want to ask you about your visa situation, because this is a recurring problem for you. At the moment, you're working without a visa, so you can't, sit on the bench and do your job properly. And as I understand it, you're not getting paid either. Is that right? So tell us about the visa situation. Why can't you get a visa?
I don't think the chairman wants me to have a visa, to be fair. I think I've been here now 6 weeks. The process takes about 4 weeks, so that's another 4 weeks that's going to take over. I can't be paid because I've not got no work visa. I'm on the system. I shouldn't be. It's not as if I'm new in the country, but unfortunately, the problem is I've got to do due process and follow due process, and it takes time. It's going to take me 6 weeks to get my dual residency, so I might actually do that one. But if I'm honest, I want to look maybe at the possibility of coming back to England at the end of the season, and maybe try and look at, speaking to Noel at Reading, speaking to Parky at Wrexham, if hopefully he gets promoted, see if there's any academy jobs. So yeah, it's a strange one. It doesn't help when you stand in the stands and you get a great view of the game, but getting a message down to the bench is very, very difficult. And sometimes them decisions, like Colin Lee said last week, that was a great analogy of what he spoke about, making them brave decisions, them big decisions. And against Mamelodi Sundowns in the Nedbank Cup, the miscommunication of myself and the guy on the bench, he took the wrong player off, and that kind of, whether we won or not, who knows now? But that miscommunication is very, very difficult.
Yeah, Dylan, I don't know if you can bring your player in now and just sort of give a little introduction to him. And then Johnny, do you want to ask Dylan's player some questions about Dylan and his methods and how?
I want Dylan to still talk to me at the end of this, Mark.
Yeah, fair enough. Go on. I'm going to hand it over to you. So, Dylan, is he there?
He's outside. I think he's talking to his missus.
He's gone a bit shy. All right. Okay.
We'll come back to it.
Go on, Johnny. I'll let you take over now. Just have a chat to Dylan, and obviously we were kind of, the reason for this is, yeah, it's great for the three of us to get together, but we were actually hoping to get Steve Coppell on tonight. He's not been able to make it, so we're sort of making this up as we go along. So, Johnny, I'll hand it over to you to have a quick chat with Dylan. Ask him whatever you like.
Dylan, in all seriousness, like when you're not getting paid to do your job, how the hell do you keep going? And it must be a difficult situation. Aside from the football, aside from coaching, for you personally.
Well, I love the game. It's all I've ever wanted to do since I was 5 years old. The sacrifices I've made, Johnny, in life, with family, not having kids, and don't get me wrong, I would have loved to have a son or a daughter. I'd love to. I was married once upon a time, and it's not having that responsibility has given me the opportunity to go and travel the world and do something that I love doing. But unfortunately, getting back into Europe, getting back into England or Scotland, even Scotland, is very, very difficult. But I was out of work for 3 months, after I left Swallows.
Yeah.
And the opportunity came to help the chairman out. And, he's a good guy, the chairman. He's a bit misunderstood, but he's a good guy. And, he's put a lot of money, put a lot of time and effort into this club. And I just thought, yeah, I'd come and, try and help him, which, touch wood, so far we've done really, really well. But, there's only a certain amount of time you can, sit at home, walk on the beach, go for a swim in the sea. Well, I didn't even swim in the sea because it was polluted. And basically waste your time sat in a bar. And we spoke about Brian McDermott when we spoke to Brian. I was in a situation where you could get trapped in that environment where there's a lot of older people, I'm talking 60, 70 years old, who are sat there drinking whiskey, drinking pints, drinking shooters, because of that holiday environment. So I became, trapped in that world for about 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't like it. It was great because you were talking, you were watching the football on TV, you were watching cricket, you were watching rugby, but it was always you're with a group, and then that group would leave, and another group would come. By the time you'd finished, you'd had 2 or 3 pints. You were talking, you'd having 10, 11, 12, and you were there like basically the whole day.
Yeah.
So I actually, from a mental side of things, I needed to do something, and this was a good opportunity to try and rescue not only this team, but also keep this legacy I've got of making teams survive. previously, it's really been. I've been really full on with it, and this time I'm not really full on with it because I know with this team of players, with a little bit of luck and a little bit of fortune, we could survive.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is, I had less time now than I did in the previous clubs. So I think I'm 6 games, less than what I had previously. So I just love the job. I just love going out and working. And I'll give you an example, Johnny. Today, I turned up for training and the players didn't want to play, didn't want to train. So for 2 hours, I'm sat there, they're having the meetings, and it's all about bonuses for CAF. And then I said, right, guys, here's a situation, here's a scenario. If you go on strike today, the chairman's got he can full on fire you because you brought the club into disrepute. You're not doing your job, and he can fire you. I said, look, all you need to do is train. We'll have a good session. We'll start at 12, we'll finish at 1. So we'll only do an hour, because the mind's not there. They don't want to do it. Yeah. And I said, look, you've got 10 minutes. I'll blow this whistle. If you want to stay, stay. If you want to go, go. But the consequences are down to you, not to me. And anyway, everybody ended up training. We trained till 1:30, so we did an hour and a half. Yeah. So that's what I love about it, and having that respect to the players as well. Even though they'd kill me in a heartbeat, if they wanted to. Yeah. Because what they do, the one will talk to 2, 2 will talk to 4, 4 will talk to 8, and all of a sudden it becomes a problem.
When you come in, Dylan, like when you come into a club like you do as like the emergency saviour, what's your mindset? Like, say, like if you were coming into Reading before the last 8 games of this season, we need to stay up. Like you do where you've been, you come in and save clubs. What do you go in first thing? What's your mindset? How do you go about that process? What's the first thing you look for? Or
first thing you do is tell your players, right, whatever's happened before, it goes, it's gone. Yeah. That old stuff, the old coach, the old management, all their ethics, all them ideas, it goes because it wasn't working. And then you straight away you tell them, look, this is the 3 points you want to do. You want to survive. You want to make sure you're enjoying football again. And the last thing is you're saving your jobs. At the end of the day, you think that you're going to be safe. You think you're going to get another club. It doesn't work like that. You get relegated. Basically, maybe out of 30 players, maybe 3 will get a Premier League club. The rest will be struggling with the 3,000 other players that get released. Wow. So you said this is the the rules, right? We're going to have fun. We're going to enjoy the game. We've got nothing to lose. You're rock bottom now. There's only one way. We're going up. So either you're going to be on the same ticket as me, or you're going to go on your own ticket and probably fail. So get on board the bus. Let's go for a journey. And let's all be on it together. And it's worked 4 times. This is the 5th time. Now, I knew the captain, and when I got offered the job, I asked my captain. I asked him one simple question: if I come, can this team survive? And his simple answer is, yes, coach. So that was what I did. That's what I did.
How like, if this is your sales pitch, you deserve a job back in England. Tell them why. Because somebody's got to listen one day, mate, because you deserve the chance. So if anyone's listening out there.
I'm good at what I do. I just don't play it by ear. Last night, I'd done a program for what I need to do this morning. Like any good coach, you've got to be thorough with everything you do. I haven't got the luxury of turning up to training and knowing how many players are fit, how many players are going to train, how many players want to train. The professionalism here is shocking. From a disciplinary perspective, I have to come to training with a plan. Right, we've got 28 players, and then I'll turn up the 36 players because the club have invited trialists. You have to change you have to tweak the things that you do, you know. And I have to deal with problems that all footballers in the UK don't have. You know, they don't have transport issues, they don't have food issues, they don't have issues where it affects the families. They've got so many problems here. I have to work above and beyond just being a football coach. I'm a father, I'm an uncle, I'm a granddad, I'm a son, I'm a daughter. I am everything for these players because they trust. They have to trust me.
Yeah.
You know, and you know the simple thing. You know, I gave them 4 days break. Right? They didn't respect that. They don't. You know, they don't respect it. They don't think, wow, this coach has done something good for me. They just take it and think, yeah, I'll come into training after having 4 days off, and all of a sudden not train. You know, we'll go on strike. You know, now if you're professional, before you have the day off, you say, right, I want to meet the chairman, and then sort the differences out. Then go home, come back ready to play and ready to prepare. The issues that I have here far outweigh the problems that, say, Paul Ince has got. But at the end of the day, what him and what I have got to do is instill that confidence and that belief, and I can do that because being a former player who's you know done okay, and Colin Lee somebody took perfectly when we spoke last week. Yeah, I wasn't the best defender. You know, I was a great attacker and I got a great left foot. And yes, I wasn't the defender. I agree with him. Yeah. I agree with him. That's why I couldn't get in the Leeds team. You know, Tony DeRigo was better than me. Gary Speed was better than me. You know, so I understand that work ethic of how players work. And, you know, being given the opportunity to speak to a chairman, to speak to a managing director, to speak to a technical director, and explaining my philosophy, my work ethic, you know, my ethos of how football should be played. Howard Wilkinson got it right back in the early 80s and the 90s and was a success. But people didn't like him. People didn't believe him. I think maybe, you know, that could be part of why I'm not, you know, given the opportunity. Because they don't appreciate what football job in South Africa is like. Yeah. You know, it's 100 times more difficult than anywhere in the world because of, like I said, the circumstances that players have.
Dylan, I've got a question for you. Sorry, Johnny, go on. Ask one more question. Then
I was going to ask Steve this, but like yourself. Do you think that, you know, obviously in the Premier League, do you think there's too many people behind the scenes now that overcomplicate things? You're the manager, you sort it out. Like back in when you were playing, you had a manager and assistant manager and maybe a couple of backroom staff. Now you've got the analysis, the stats. Is it just make it overload? Like.
It bamboozles you. It bamboozles you. I remember I went down, when the video analysis came in, I went down to Charlton when Parky was there as assistant with Pardew. And he did a video session. Now, that video session was perfect. Alan Pardew, down to a T. I was really, really impressed. And then I think it was about 5 years later, maybe a bit longer, I watched the Tanzanian national team do a video analysis. And within 2 minutes, half the players were asleep, half the players were on their mobile phones, and this guy's doing this, and the team manager didn't have a clue. And it wasn't in my position. I was there just as an observer. But afterwards, I said to the coach, "You've just wasted an hour's analysis there because these players weren't interested, and they're not interested. They don't want to sit on a screen and watch a football match. You couldn't watch a 90-minute game and have the attention span just goes like that after 5 minutes. You know, so it's the Premier League clubs now have got, you know, and it's great that they've got that. It's great that they've got that. But does it help? Does it help? You know, is every Chelsea player happy that they're sat in the stand, they're sat on the bench and not getting game time? But yet they have to go through the same process, the same, you know, and you know, players when they're not playing are different to the players who are playing. Yeah. You know, there is that,
isn't it? And
there's that togetherness, but there is a divide because I'm playing and they're not playing. You know, so.
Dylan, I wanted to ask you. Obviously, you're a former player, now a manager, head coach. Paul Ince the same. But you've had players like Lampard, Gerrard, Vieira, who have been fantastic players. There's no question about it. Absolutely amazing players that don't necessarily make successful managers. How much of a difference does it make, do you think, where you can sort of relate to the players because you've been a player, but if you look at somebody like Graham Potter, he wasn't a great player. If you look at Arsene Wenger, Jose Mourinho, Alex Ferguson, they weren't great players. Probably Brian Clough was the exception, wasn't he? Because he was a great player and a brilliant manager, but part of that was down to Peter Taylor. But does it help you being, the fact that you were a player and you can relate to the players, or what are your thoughts? And what's that like for, because you've got Paul Ince and Alex Ray, both, Alex Ray was a decent player, Paul Ince, great player, Man United, England, etc. Does it help you being a former player as a head coach?
Well, I think I decided when I was 18, when I was at Sheffield Wednesday, that I liked Howard Wilkinson. Now, Howard Wilkinson wasn't the best player, and he didn't really have a glorious career as a player. But I liked his work ethic. I liked the way he managed his players. And I think that's one of the things that's the most successful coaches, the Cloughs, the Fergusons, the Wilkinsons, the Mourinhos, they've managed the players, and when they do that, you're going to get the best out of them. And I remember when I went back to Leeds, probably 90, I think it was 95, just after I've been in, remember I got injured at Reading. And I went and trained at Leeds. I went up and trained at Leeds. And who was Thomas Brolin was there at Leeds. And I saw that Howard had kind of lost his mojo, and I think the players then had started to well, we don't want to really train like this again. We want to do something different. And I saw in Howard and Michael Hennigan, they'd kind of like lost it, and there's a lot of managers that have had a good successful year and built up a good career. You got Lampard, you got Gerrard, and then they kind of, I don't know if they become too blasé about it, become too popular, or they think that they're going to be a big success because of their name. And I'm trying to think, there's somebody now, I think Charlie Adams now, saying he's waiting for the call to maybe get the opportunity to go and coach. And that will probably come from Blackpool, or probably from Dundee, or probably from his...
Well, obviously he was already, wasn't he,
already,
as well?
Yeah, already. I mean, that might happen. That might be his pathway into the club. But he's now putting himself out there, which is 100% right. He does right. But you can't just rest on what you've done before. You've got to keep going and keep going and keep going. And all the successful managers that are winning things and doing things have done that. They've not just sat down and just said, well, yeah, I'm doing okay. I don't have to worry about it. I want to be the next thing. I want to do the next thing. And that's where, fortunately and unfortunately at the same time, I believe I can do that with, and I want to do even better the next year, but that's never happened. It always seems to be that you do one job, and then obviously other people get involved, and agents think they know somebody better that can do your job, and then it doesn't work like that. And when I was at TT, chairman now, loved everything. He loves me, but he didn't want me to stay at the end of that season. And after I left, he's had 4 foreign coaches and 1 local coach. And they're all taking him to FIFA, they're taking him to PSL, DRC. So, you need to stick by the people that have ambition, want to win things, want to do bigger and better. And if something else comes up after that, like it does in management, when you start at a lower league and then you work your way up into, like Graham Potter did. Graham Potter, you do your what is it? Your coaching license every 3 years, your CPD, right? I went to Burton Albion and Graham Potter was a speaker. He was doing a talk on his career. And I thought, wow, that's not bad, but it's got nothing on mine. But I've never had that opportunity. The next thing, Graham Potter's at Brighton. And he's done really, really well. But remember, those players he's had at Brighton are not superstars, are not big hitters. They're not earning 150, 200,000 a month. And he's gone from that environment in Brighton where he's got a good family together, then he's got a bunch of individual world-class players that now he has to manage. And that's the thing, I believe in. It's that man management part of the game.
And you've got that experience now. You're not just an ex-player who's become a head coach. You've actually got a proven track record as a head coach, but it just doesn't seem to count for much. I mean, you have worked in the UK. I think you've been under 18s head coach at Burton and Chesterfield. Is that right? Have I got that right?
Kilmarnock.
Yeah, but not. You haven't had kind of that opportunity to go any further than that. What do you think it is? Do you think it's that you get disregarded because you haven't got the right agent, or what is it? Because you've won, I think, 7 trophies since 2017. You've gone in 4 clubs in the relegation zone in the South African Premier Division, kept them all up. The club that you've just come into, they've only won 2 games all season, bottom of the table. All of a sudden you come in, they win 4 games in a row, and you got them to the quarterfinals of the equivalent of the Europa League. But no one from any clubs in Europe is calling you, are they? Why is that?
I don't know. I mean, I speak to, obviously I'm good friends with Imre Berardi, and he's got a very good agency, and I know Matt Rankin at base. I know John Newsom, who's now a former teammate and who's working for an agency in London. But Imre Berardi told me, he says, there's bigger and better out there that are applying for jobs. So for instance, Wigan Athletic, Sam Allardyce is going for it. There's when there's jobs in the Championship, there's Alan Pardew's, the likes of Alan Pardew's are going for it. So I'm like, I've only coached in Africa. That doesn't matter. Problem is, a lot of African players are playing in the English Premiership, so it can't be that bad a standard, But the one thing Imre said to me, says there's bigger and better out there. But my reply to that is, yeah, but they've been sacked not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4, 5, 6 times, and they still get the opportunity, And okay, I was sacked once here, but that's some circumstances way out of my control. And like I say, it'd just be nice to get one interview. And if I do it, great. If I don't do it, then I know obviously it's not what they're looking for.
Can I just ask you quickly? Sorry, Lee. What level would you go into at your lowest in management in England? League 2, League 1. I'm just asking if anyone's listening.
Vanarama or whatever it's called. It's like I say, it's about, I believe I have so much confidence in what I can do.
Yeah.
And I believe that, I've been brought up the proper way in football. Yes, I've got a great social life. Yes, I love to spend my time, going out and talking to people and meeting people. But when it comes to my job, I don't switch off. Like now, we've got the Euros. I've got to find. Luckily, the clocks have gone forward, so it's only an hour's difference now. But I'll be finding a pub somewhere, and I'll be begging them to put the TV on for the football, because obviously it's a rugby country here. So, but I'll be watching just to pick up something. You might see a corner, you might see a free kick, you might see a throw in. you might see a player that you've got in your team that a Luka Modric. You think, well, let's see how Modric plays because we've got a player called Zizou, kind of the same player. Let me see if I can improve him the way Modric plays. Is his awareness better? Is his space awareness better? Does he run forward? Does he play forward? Does he play? And that's what I do. And I say, it'll be probably past midnight, by the time I get home to bed. But then I've got to plan in the morning, so I'm up at 6 o'clock, making sure that everything's to plan. But as today happened, I went to work and just ripped everything up. Right. Mark, Ruby's here now. He's finally got off his phone.
Okay, well, I'll ask him. And you got to tell him, Dylan, you've got to give him instructions. Yeah. He's got to pretend that you're not there and give honest answers. Yeah. So do you want to introduce him, Dylan, first?
Yes. Guys, I know this is a bit off the mark with Steve Coppell, the legendary Steve Coppell, the wing wizard of Man United and a former Reading coach, not being available tonight. But I'd like to introduce to one of my players. He's my captain. I've worked with him twice. Once at TTM when we won the Nedbank Cup, which obviously he's going to show. He'll probably want to show you. He got player of the tournament. He's from Zimbabwe. His name's Washington Arubi, and he's the goalkeeper. And like I said, I'm going to leave the building now because I don't want him to say too many nice things to me. But I'll hand you over to him, Mark. So, ladies and gentlemen of Reading Football Club, this is Washington Arubi.
And Dylan, come back in a couple of minutes. All right.
Watch he doesn't take the trophy.
Yeah, watch out for him.
No, I'll make sure he doesn't have the keys.
Washington, we're delighted to speak to you. So this is the 1871 podcast, and it's for fans of Reading Football Club. Dylan obviously used to play. He's in the Hall of Fame for Reading Football Club as well. He was player of the season one season. He's spoken highly of you. You've worked together before. Just tell us what it is that he's done. So he's come into Marumo Gallants, and you've won 2 league games all of a sudden, all season, and then all of a sudden he comes in, you win the next 4 games in a row. What's happened? Is that a change in mentality, or what has he done that's different from what you were doing before?
Okay. Good evening. With our coach, he's like a father figure to everyone and a motivator at the same time. He knows where you're coming from because we once been in this situation before. Then the time he came here, we managed to win like a Nedbank Cup and we survived. And so what is happening now? We once went through these events before, so he's using the same philosophy that he used before for us to survive and win the Nedbank Cup. Right now, we managed to win about we won 1 game and 2 draws with him, and now we are in the quarterfinals of CAF Confederation Cup, which is a big achievement for the club. If you remember, our club is still new in the system, so we just taking it from there going forward.
Yeah, and what is the key thing that he's giving you? Is it motivation? Is it encouragement? Is it support? What do you think it is that's made the difference for you as a player?
Yeah, the difference with him is he makes each and every player to believe. Even he doesn't just try to focus on the first 11, first 20, everyone. He respects each and every player, for the player to grow their confidence. Even if you are not playing, you can feel that you feel like as if you are playing, you're part of the team. So I think that's the difference that the coaches around that coach this team. Right now we are already in the quarterfinals. Already he's telling other players that have been not playing, like, hey guys, this is your chance because you left with 1 game. You have to push. You're gonna play this game. So I can see some of these boys already. We started training today. They're already pumped because already they are now knowing that they're gonna play the last game of the Confederation of the qualifiers. So they wanna put themselves on the line and also for the next game for the league.
Yeah, and Johnny, I'll let you come in for the next question, but Washington, I just want to ask you, obviously when Dylan came in, you're bottom of the table in the South African Premier Division. He's now managed to help you get into the quarterfinals of the CAF Confederation Cup, which is similar to the Europa League in Europe. What does that mean to you personally? Because you're representing South Africa. You know, you're bottom of the table in the league, but now all of a sudden you're in the last 8 of the equivalent of the Europa League. So it's a big deal for you. What does that mean for you that he's kind of helped you achieve that in such a short space of time since he's come in?
Yeah, you know, for us to qualify for the conference, it's my first time, you know, because I once played this tournament before the time I played in my country, like in Zimbabwe. I'm originally from Zimbabwe, but we didn't manage even to get out of the group stages or to reach this stage where we are right now. For me, it's a great achievement, especially on my CV also, you know, so that going forward, when I just put my CV down there, you know, those are the type of things people they look at. You know, and I wish to keep on working with him until if I say, okay, I'm going to retire right now, I just wish to keep on working with him, because I feel like he's someone who makes you to believe and also makes you to grow as a person, because he makes you understand what is supposed to be happening in any situation.
Yeah, Johnny, have you got a question for Washington?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, like, I think, you know, anyone that's listening or watching this, you know, the enthusiasm Dylan's got for football is amazing, and it's great to hear from somebody that actually works under him that it's there. When you're working with him in a training session, we have to ask this: how many times does he swear, and does he mention his obsession with 80s music to any of you at all?
No, we now used to him, you know, but him is that type of person that if he swear with you, within 2 minutes you come and say, okay, sorry, I swear at you. Okay, sharp, let's just keep on going. He's that type of a person. But it's not like when he swears, you know, he doesn't just take out his anger. You know, he's always tried to be a nice person, but some of us, we are used to him because you try to always hold his anger inside, but he's always a winner. He's a sore loser. He doesn't like losing.
Really? Is that the biggest thing for him?
Mm.
And like as a keeper, from him being an outfield player, how does he work with you?
Yeah, he always hammer me. You know, he doesn't want me to concede. You know, every time I concede a goal, he always being on top of me. But to be honest with you, you know, the time he came here, from the time we started this season, I started on top of my game. Then I started going down. Then the time he came back, you know, most of his drills, they always make me be a better keeper. You know, because some of his drills doesn't do much. You always focus on finishing, defend everything, every aspect. If we focus on that, but in a small space, he doesn't do this thing of 11 versus 11. No, here we don't play 11 versus 11. We don't even know what is 11 versus 11. The only time we play 11 versus 11 when you go into the game, that's it. Oh. And also, there's something that he brings that most of the players are happy about, but him, he doesn't know. You know, just to let the players to rest and give the players that comfort zone, like to do whatever they want to do. You know, because players sometimes they feel like, you know, when you always being on top of them, they end up chickening out and being scared. So yeah. He give and every player the confidence, do what you want to do, but as long as you give me what I want on the field of the play, whatever, even if you do something on your social life and all that, but come to training, be a better person.
Wow, that's a great leader to have, isn't it?
Sorry?
Yeah, it's a great leader to have, isn't it?
Yeah, too much, especially with African players. You know, I feel like they don't want to be, you know, to be shouted at too much, because we are different. Some of them don't take these things. They take these things personal. Then they end up being scared of putting work on it, on everything, and they end up not even putting end up their confidence going down.
Yeah,
Washington, I just want to ask you one final question. You're the captain, right, of Maroon Gallants? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the vice captain.
So I just want to ask you, so the vice captain, the captain, what responsibility have you got to, you know, make sure whatever Dylan's instructions to the team are, that you deliver those instructions to the team? Is that a big part of your responsibilities?
Yeah, exactly. Because he always sends us, like when he gives, like, okay, tell the players, okay, guys, you must tell the players. The first thing he does is he talks to us before he delivers whatever he want to deliver to the players. Then you ask us, is it a good idea or not a good idea? Then we just advise each other, like him, me, and the other captain. And then we just sit down, then we just discuss, then decide. which is good because most of these coaches, most of the coaches, they just decide on themselves, not even discussing with other people. But also you also the platform to his assistants, to bring that unity as a team, like these technical people.
Yeah.
Because I feel like him also, he knows where he's coming from. I think he likes crying when it comes to his assistants, people who are on his back, he doesn't trust.
Well, Washington, I just want to say to you, thanks ever so much, because we were hoping that we were going to get Steve Coppell, who was the former Reading manager. He used to play for Manchester United. He's a legend as a player, legend as a manager as well. He couldn't make it tonight. So thank you for stepping in for Steve Coppell. It's been a pleasure to speak to you. So we got to speak to a current player. So that's great. And wish you well for the rest of the season, Washington.
Okay.
Do you want to see if Dylan can come back in now?
Yeah, no, before he comes, I just want to also thank you guys for bringing me on your platform. It's an honor to me. And also, I feel special. I feel special right now. It's something that is I have to keep on doing. It makes me also grow. And also, I've been listening to your interview with him. There's something that I'm picking also that he used when he was playing, and also that he's using. And also, I have to pick up those type of stuff so that when the time I'm gonna retire, I have to use it towards other players. Yeah. And also, you guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
No, well, pleasure to speak to you, Washington. Thank you.
Good luck for the rest of the season.
Good luck. And here comes Dylan. So we knew Dylan, thanks for that. That was great. So he stood in for Steve Coppell, basically.
Yeah. No, it was brilliant. No, thank you. Like I say, I just heard him as I came in about retiring. He doesn't know I'm going to release him at the end of the season. He's got his P45.
No, he seems like a good guy. He seems like he's already kind of thinking ahead. But look, I want to bring it back. Obviously, it's a Reading podcast. We were hoping to get Steve Coppell on. He couldn't make it. I'm sure he'll come back. He's been a guest on Series 1. Actually, our next guest coming up so we're recording it on Thursday, goes out on Friday evening, is Bob Lenarduzzi, who played for Reading in the 70s. First Canadian player to play for Reading. He's living back in Canada now, so looking forward to speaking to him. He was a great player for Reading back all those years ago. But let's bring it back to Reading now. And Johnny and Dylan, want to ask your opinion. So the next game coming up is 1st of April, away to Bristol City, and then the games come thick and fast. I think it's 7 games in April, or is it? 8 games left?
Yeah, 7 in April, 1 in May, I think, isn't it? Something like that.
Yeah. So, Johnny, I just want to ask you first about the 6-point deduction. It's kind of a lot of Reading fans assuming it's going to happen. We kind of got to that point. Is it sort of no news is good news, or James Earnshaw we had on? He said yes, it's definitely happening this season. Are we 99% sure it's going to happen? Are we 100% sure? What's your
With the EFL, Mark, I think they're an absolute joke, the way that they do things. Who knows? They'll probably wait until we're we're 6 points clear of relegation on the last day. Go, I have 6-point deduction to bring you back down now. We told you so. Get the naughty stick out. Who knows? It's an absolutely bizarre way of doing things. We're either broken the rules or we haven't. You say it now, say it next week, say it 3 weeks ago when it was 3 weeks ago, wasn't it, when it came out?
Something like that.
Yeah, and here we are, we're still waiting, and you're going, somebody knows, somewhere has to know what's going on. Wigan got that 3 points for not paying the wages. That's fine. That's whatever. I don't know what anyone wants to say any more about it. You think within a 2-week window before the last stretch of the season, something would be said. Silence, silence, silence. It's not fair on the team. It's not fair on the manager. It's not fair on the fans. But I don't think we really matter to the Football League the way they do things, to be honest. Yeah,
it's a bizarre situation. And Dylan, want to bring you in now. Obviously, you still follow Reading. You were great player, Reading legend, player of the season, in the Hall of Fame now. Back in September, you went into the Hall of Fame, and you do follow Reading, don't you? And it just seems like a case of it's still, Reading paying the price really for mismanagement, since the likes of Steve Coppell and Brian McDermott left and new owners and that sort of thing. And obviously we're still paying the price for that. Do you kind of think, as a lot of Reading fans do, that it's a case of just get to the summer, do what we need to do to stay up, bit of sort of fingers crossed mode really, isn't it? And then there's a reset in the summer and we can hopefully put all this behind us? Or is it a case of, are we going to go into next season and we might get more points deductions? I mean, from what you understand, Dylan, what do you kind of see for the year ahead for Reading, really?
Well, the board or the chairman, who obviously doesn't really care about the club, from what I read and what I've read over the last few years, they need to clean the house. They need to wake up and get things right. It's a massive club. It's a massive club outside of London. It's got a great stadium. It's got some loyal fans that are just begging for the club to just put clarity on what is the problem, and if there is a problem, why aren't we fixing it? Why are we not getting rid of that problem? And from an outsider looking in, it seemed like, say, over the years, it's just got worse and worse and worse. And one agent that Reading have always used, that was a big disaster. Because there were players that were coming into the club that was just one agent's players, and it seemed to be, they were signing these players without the managers say so, and they weren't very good players at the end of the day. And again, when you give players 2-3 year contracts, unlike in South Africa, you don't get your full 2 years, 3 years contract. You have to pay them up, and having a club like Reading not being able to pay salaries, I mean, it's crazy. John Badesky would have had a problem back in the 90s, but he didn't. He kept a tight ship. He made sure that the budget he had was spent. Mark couldn't go over budget. Mark, Quinny and Geordie couldn't go over. Bolivar couldn't go over it. So they had a chairman who was a multi-millionaire back in the day, by the way. He was minted, John. And he could have afforded anything, but he had a budget. He had a way of getting the best out of his management, and the management got the best out of the players. And that's what they've got to do before Reading becomes a club that's loses its identity, and we get another owner. We get another Russian owner, which was a disaster.
And Dylan, you're a Man United fan. You're presumably a fan of Paul Ince as a player. We did an episode recently where we asked the question based on the opinions of Reading fans, because some Reading fans think Paul Ince should stay, some Reading fans think he should go. So we kind of, asked the question, what should happen? I asked Johnny what he thought. What do you, because there is a lot of support for Paul Ince. A lot of people think that he deserves a chance. He deserves a chance to take Reading to the end of the season, hopefully keep them up, and then it's job done. Some fans think there should be a change now to make sure Reading do stay up. Some fans think that's the wrong thing to do. What do you think about the role that Paul Ince has, got now until the end of the season? Because he's been under, whatever you want to say about him, whatever you want to say about the players, etc., he's had a lot to kind of deal with. It's a bit like one of your situations in South Africa, where he's had all these, restrictions with the transfer embargo, and, players have got injured and people might not like his style or whatever. But, we don't know yet if Reading are going to stay up, obviously. But if he keeps Reading up, actually, a lot of people will say, well, he's done a decent job. What's your view of that whole take on the job that Paul Ince is doing? Should he be given a chance? Should he definitely stay until the end of the season? What's your view?
He's got to stay at the end of the season till the end of the season. To change it now, that's going to. Well, it could go either both ways. It could work. It could go pear-shaped. I mean, changing it now with, I think, is it 8 games to go? I don't think they'll go down. I mean, if they get the 6 points taken off and lose the next 3 games, then there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. But Paul Ince is Paul Ince. I don't think nobody expected him to get the job when he first got the job. If you're honest, I think they all wanted Gareth Ainsworth. At Wickham, I think there were a lot of other candidates that they wanted to bring to the club. But Paul Ince got the job. He did a good job in his first season. The restrictions that he had. He obviously's got the backing of the board, which is good. I'm hoping it's from not from his playing career. I'm hoping it's from his, from Paul Ince as is now. He's got the character. I think he's disciplined. I think he knows what the way he wants to play. But obviously, things that have happened to him, injuries, suspensions, results. He's trying to find that right balance. Like I said, if you can get players in that dressing room to believe in what he's going to bring for the next 8 games, like I have. I've got 7 games. I've got to win 4.
Yeah,
I've got to win 4. There's no excuses. I have got to win the next 4 games. I don't need to go into the last 3 games needing 9 points because it'll never happen.
Yeah.
So I've got to make sure that as of tomorrow, when they do decide that they're going to train, I've got to prepare these players and get that belief in them that they can survive. Because they're playing for the jobs, and so are Reading players. They're playing for a new contract. They're playing for an extension of a contract, or maybe they're playing for a move.
Sure.
So getting that message over to them. Right, guys, this is where we are. This is what we've got. 8 games, 24 points. This is what we need. We need another 12 points. We're safe. We need another 9 points. Whatever points they need. Because that dogfight, you don't want to be in a dogfight in any situation. Sure. I inherited a situation. I wasn't mid-table. I was in the top 8. I was rock bottom with 9 games to go.
Yeah.
I've won 1 league game. I've drawn 2 league games. We should have won all 3.
Yeah.
But the circumstances are different. But I believe that this team can stay up, and that's what Paul Ince has got to do. He's got to believe in the football club.
All right. Well, thanks ever so much for your views, Dylan and Johnny. Great to speak to Washington as well. And we'll look to speak to Steve Coppell on our next episode. So thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed that, and we'll get Steve Coppell on the next episode. So great to chat to you all, and see you next time.